Now let's begin with the chemistry of the first functional group, and that is those are the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are, as the name implies, hydrates of carbon. Carbohydrates are also present in the structural form that can be present in in a cell to give its hardness. Sometimes carbohydrates are mainly also used for energy. So the most common source of carbohydrate, or the most common use of the carbohydrate, is it is the primary source of energy, which means that it's the first choice for animals to or plants to derive their energy from. The word carbohydrate literally means carbon, and hydrate is for water. So notice you've got carbon and hydrates, CH2 parentheses N. Now the number N means that if I put any number of, for example, if I put 6 outside the molecule's number, then I can get the exact number of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in this molecule. And this molecule is our famous glucose molecule. The structure of glucose molecule is shown to you. A and B are both structures of glucose molecule. Another thing that is very important to learn about carbohydrates is that carbohydrates are highly hydrophilic, which means that they will dissolve in water. And I think most of you know that if you take your sugar or any substance that is sugary and you mix it in water, most of the time it will dissolve in water pretty well. The names of most carbohydrates end in the suffix "ose." For example, glucose is the one that I gave you. If I write down another one that you might be familiar of, lactose, sucrose, mannose. So they usually end in the suffix "ose" over here that's written. Now, carbohydrates can be present as straight chains, or it can be in a ring. These are examples of ring in which you see carbohydrates in a ring form, and they're individually. Now in the previous example that we did over here, we let's go back. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go back to a slide over here, all the way back. Now this is a slide from the previous section. Notice all the links that are shown over here. Each of these links are showing you the carbohydrates that are arranged in a linear pattern. So they can be arranged in straight chains, as the previous slide that I showed you, or it can be individually as a ring, as shown in this particular slide. Carbohydrates are present in three different formats. The first ones are called as the monosaccharides. Monosaccharides means there's one unit only. And these are the name of the four monosaccharides that are given to you. For example, glucose is a 6-carbon monosaccharide found in your blood, and it's also present in fruits and fruit juices. Fructose is another 6-carbon, and these two are definitely isomers of each other, which is that they have the same formula but they are arranged differently. Ribose is a 5-carbon sugar that we will hear about later during the chapter of nucleic acids. And deoxyribose is another 5-carbon monosaccharide. The name ribose and deoxy, notice deoxy means one less oxygen. So I've given you the two common 6-carbon and the two common 5-carbon sugars that are found in living cells. The next groups are disaccharides. There are two important disaccharides shown over here. One is maltose, usually present in malt, and sucrose, which is present, which is actually the table sugar. So this is the table sugar, and the one that's missing from this list is another one that is lactose, which is the milk sugar. So these are the three disaccharides: maltose, lactose, and sucrose. And each of these will be formed by the reaction that we just learned, which is called as the dehydration reaction, which is a synthesis reaction. Notice the hydrogen and the OH are taken away from each of the units, and they are linked up with this unique bond. The name of this unique bond is glycosidic bond. I'm going to go back over here and let's just write down the word over here. So this bond over here that we have just formed is called as glycosidic. So that is the unique name for the bond that links the two sugars together. Notice on the side you also have water, because this water was generated from the when these two units were put together, or they were synthesized. So the third kind of polysaccharides, the third kind of carbohydrates are called as the polysaccharides. Poly means many, and sugars. So this is like literally the term means many sugar units. And here are examples of quite a few of them. You can see these are long chains of sugars, and over here you can actually see a chain that is even branched into forms, and you have more branched chain or more complex chains. And these are all the different kinds of polysaccharides that are present in living cells that we hear about the most. So joining of three or more monosaccharides while glycosidic bond or link. You can use either of the two words, but it's a glycosidic bond or a link. Now, some of the examples of polysaccharides are starch, which is present mainly in plants. It's the storage form of carbohydrates. Cellulose, also found in plants. Very structural component. Glycogen is the stored form in animals. So excess sugars are stored as glycogen in animals and starch in plants. Chitin, which was present in the cover of the picture where we have the crab sitting with the hard surface, and peptidoglycan, which is present in bacterial cell walls. So peptidoglycan is a polysaccharide, and this is present and we saw in shells, etc. So we have all kinds of carbohydrates. Some are structural, some are mainly for storage, and the ones that are for storage are the starch and glycogen, and this will give energy that is required for performing many functions. Now, the energy that is performed by most of these reactions is generated about 4.3 kilocalories per mole. You will see later that lipids give you a much higher content of energy. The most first source of energy is usually carbohydrates. So this concludes our section on carbohydrates.